Good morning, guys. In the last session, we discussed about what is a start class in the Spring Boot, what is a run method, how that run method is executing internally, what is a banner in the Spring Boot, how IOC container will start in the Spring Boot, what are runners in the Spring Boot, what are the use cases to go for runner, how to work with runner. We discussed in the last session. Okay, fine, guys. Now, today we are going to talk about what is Spring Boot application annotation. If you go to start class of the Spring Boot, we can see that there is one annotation available. There is one annotation is available. What is that annotation? At the rate Spring Boot application. Now, what is Spring Boot application annotation, right? So this annotation is available in the start class. Spring Boot application annotation is available in start class. This annotation used at start class of the Spring Boot. This annotation used at start class of Spring Boot. Got it? This annotation is equal to below three annotations. This annotation is equal to below three annotations. Equal to below three annotations. What are those three annotations, guys? First one is at the rate Spring Boot configuration. First one is at the rate Spring Boot configuration. Second one is enable auto configuration. Enable auto configuration. Third one, component scan. Third one is component scan. So this annotation is equal to three annotations. One is boot configuration. Second one is enable auto configuration. Third one is component scan. Now let's try to understand these annotations in detail so that we can complete our discussion related to start class. Right, guys? Now, first let's talk about what is component scan. First, let's talk about what is component scan. Component scan is the process of identifying. Component scan is the process of scanning the packages in the application to identify Spring Bean classes. Now, in our project, we can create several classes. So in our Spring Boot application, we are going to create several classes. So which classes are represented as Spring Beans? Which classes are represented as Spring Beans? That it is going to identify by scanning packages. That is called as component scan. So what is component scan? The process of scanning packages in the application to identify Spring Bean classes is called as component scan. Okay, what is the component scan? The process of scanning packages in the application to identify Spring Bean classes is called as component scan. Component scanning component scanning is inbuilt concept. Component scan is built-in concept. You no need to do anything to perform component scanning. It is default feature of the Spring Boot. So now we are creating a project. In our project, several packages will be available. In those packages, several classes we are going to create. We're creating a project. In our project, several packages will be available. In those packages, we are creating several classes. Okay, so the process of scanning those packages in the application to identify bean classes is called as component scan. Component scan is built in concept. Component scan is built-in concept. Now let's observe by taking one application, file, new. Here I'm taking this application as Spring Boot component scan. Component scan. Next, finish. I have created one project. I've created one project. I'm not taking any additional dependency. A simple normal project I have taken. A simple normal Spring Boot application I have taken. Now in .AhokIT, in this we have start class application.java, run this project. So when you run this project, component scanning is going to happen. It is going to scan the packages available in the project to identify Spring Bean classes. So currently in this in.AhokIT, we have only start class. Let me create one class called motor. Let me create one class as a motor. I'm going to specify zero param default constructor to understand object created or not. So when the class object got created, constructor will be executed. So I want to print a message on the console when the constructor got executed. Motor constructor. So currently it is a normal Java class. This motor class is a normal Java class. Now, if you want to manage your class by IOC container, then you need to represent your class as a Spring Bean. So in the Spring framework, we will represent our class as a Spring Bean by using XML. But here, do we have any XML file to represent our class as a Spring Bean? Guys, please respond to my question. Do we have any XML to represent our class as a Spring Bean here? We don't have any XML to represent class as a Spring Bean. Here we are going to use annotation. So what is the annotation we are using? We are going to use one annotation called @component. Using one annotation called @component. So @component is the annotation that is used to represent our Java class as a Spring Bean. Now right click, run as boot application. Now can you see motor constructor got executed? Am I telling the IOC to create the object, or it is scanned as part of component scanning? It identified that this class is a Spring Bean. When we develop the Spring application, you see we have created a configuration file. In that configuration file, we configure the class as a Spring Bean by using XML. But today we don't have any XML file because we are using Spring Boot. Spring Boot nothing but auto configuration. Now here component scanning is available. What is this component scanning? Whenever this application started, the IOC container scanning the package. In that package, it is checking what are the classes available. One is a start class. Then it is scanning that there is a motor class available. Motor class is represented as a Spring Bean by using component. For the motor class, object also created by default. For example, if I remove this component annotation, is this a Spring Bean or it is a normal Java class? Motor is a Spring Bean or motor is a normal Java class? Motor is a normal Java class. Let's run this application. Run as boot application. Run as boot application. Object is created or object is not created? Guys, can you see object is created or object is not created? Object is not created. So for which classes objects will be created? For Spring Bean classes. How to represent our class as a Spring Bean class? By using @component annotation. So how the object is created? Did I give any XML as an input? Am I starting the IOC container first of all? I am not starting the IOC. Who is starting the IOC container? Who is starting IOC container for this application? Run method. Inside the run method, we have seen the logic is available to start the IOC container. Am I asking the IOC to create the object for my motor class, or it is creating automatically? It is creating automatically. Am I calling anywhere? Please create the object for my motor class. Am I telling anywhere? Is there any configuration available for that? Application and properties file is empty. Motor class is just available. In the start class also there is no change in the code. Whatever the code available yesterday in the start class, today also same code. One main method, inside that run method, one annotation is available. Today I just created one class called motor class. Inside the start package, inside this package in.AhokIT. Then I used one annotation today, component. Component is the annotation to represent our Java class as a Spring Bean. Okay, fine. Let me create one more class. Let me create a class called car class. Let me write a zero param constructor for this also to understand when the object is created. If the object is created, then this constructor will be executed. Okay, now here also I'm specifying component, right? What is the meaning of component? Car class also I'm representing as a Spring Bean. Car class also represented as a Spring Bean. Right click, run as boot app. Now see here, for car also object is created. Yes, for car class also object created. For motor class also object is created because both classes are represented as Spring Beans. Both classes are represented as Spring Beans. For example, if I remove the component for car, now for how many classes objects will be created? Apart from the start class, there are two classes available. One is car, another one is motor. Car is a normal Java class, motor is a Spring Bean. Car class is a normal Java class, motor is a Spring Bean. Let's run this. Run as boot application. See, only motor class object is created. Now you understand the purpose of component. Now you understand purpose of the component annotation. Yes, it is used to represent Java class as a Spring Bean. Okay, next one. In the project, guys, we will write only one package or we will write multiple packages. All the classes will create one package, or we will create the classes in multiple packages in the project. Multiple packages will be available. Let me take multiple packages. Let's see the behavior of component scanning. I'm taking one package with a name called service. Here I'm taking a class with a name called user service. Here also I'm specifying zero param constructor with a SOP statement. Okay, user service constructor. Right now, here also I'm going to specify component. Basically for service layer, we will use @service annotation. It is also one stereotype annotation to represent our Java class as a Spring Bean. For normal Java classes, we are going to use a component. Component is a stereotype annotation. Similarly, there is a one more stereotype annotation which is called service, @service. When you are writing classes with business logic, then we are going to use @service annotation for that. Now, service class, user service. User service is a normal Java class. User service is a Spring Bean. Guys, user service is a normal Java class. User service is a Spring Bean. How can we say that it is a Spring Bean? There is @service annotation. So by using @service annotation, I represented this class also as a Spring Bean. So now IOC container will create the object for this class, or IOC container will not create the object for this class. IOC container will create the object for this class. Let's run this project. Run as boot application. Can you see? For car, object created. For motor, object created. For user service, object created. User service available in a different package. Still, it is scanned as part of the component scanning. This class is identified. This class identified as a Spring Bean, and this class object created by IOC container. Let me go and create one more package, new class. Here I'm creating one more package with a name called DAO, persistence layer, database access related classes. I'm creating one class with a name called user DAO. For user DAO also, I'm writing one zero param constructor system.out.println user DAO class constructor. User DAO class constructor. Are you guys clear with this? Now, to represent DAO classes as a Spring Beans, we have a annotation called repository. What is the annotation available, guys? Repository. Repository is also stereotype. Repository is also stereotype. Now, user DAO is a normal Java class. User DAO is a Spring Bean. User DAO is a normal class. User DAO is a Spring Bean. It is a Spring Bean. How we represented this as a Spring Bean? By using repository annotation. By using repository. Right click on this, run as boot application. Now can you see car object created, motor object created, DAO object created, service object created. For all, even though the classes are available in the different packages, this IOC container scanning those packages and creating the objects for the classes which are represented as a Spring Bean. That concept is called as a component scanning. So now see here, in my project there is a package in.AhokIT. In that package I have created that is by default application.java created. It is called as start class. In the same package I created a car class. I represented the car as a Spring Bean by using component. Component is one annotation. Component is one annotation which is used to represent this Java class as a Spring Bean. Then I have taken motor class. Motor class also represented as a Spring Bean by using component. Car class and motor class both are available in the same package in.AhokIT. In the same package, start class is also available. Then I have created one more package called DAO package. In this package, I created one class called user DAO. User DAO class also represented as a Spring Bean. To represent this class as a Spring Bean, I used one annotation called @repository. I used one annotation called @repository to represent this class as a Spring Bean. Now, user DAO class also identified and it created object for that. Next one, user service. I created user service class in another package called service package. This service class also represented as a Spring Bean by using @service annotation. For user service also object is created. So first it is going to scan the package where the start class is available. After that, it is going to scan the packages in the alphabetical order. DAO class object created first, then service class object is created. It is going to scan the packages in the alphabetical order. Now, this package where my start class is available, this package is called as a base package. Component scanning will start from base package. Component scanning will start from base package. Base package. What is base package? The package which contains start class is called as base package. Okay, so first which package it is scanning, guys? It is scanning in.AhokIT. That's why car object motor object created first. So this in.AhokIT is called as a base package because in this package only my start class is available. So the package which contains start class is called as base package. Component scanning will start from base package. After base package scanning completed, after base package scanning completed, it will scan sub packages of base package. It will scan sub packages of the base package. The package names which are starting with the base package name. The package names which are starting with the base package name are called as sub packages. The package names which are starting with the base package name are called as sub packages. Now, can you see base package name is in.AhokIT. So in this package, my start class is available. Component scanning started from the base package. In the base package, it identified car class. Car class is a Spring Bean. Yes, because component is there, create the object. Then go to motor. Motor class is also a Spring Bean because component is available, create the object. Base package completed. Then go for sub packages. in.AhokIT.dao. Yes, in.AhokIT.dao package is starting with the base package name. Base package name is in.AhokIT. Let us scan this package. In this package, one class is available called user DAO. User DAO class having repository annotation. That means it is also a Spring Bean. Create the object. Create the object. Now let's go for next package. in.AhokIT.service. in.AhokIT.service package also starting with the base package name only. Then scan this package. Load the class user service. This class also represented as a Spring Bean. @service annotation is available. Create the object for this. So now the process of scanning packages in the application to identify Spring Bean classes is called as component scanning. Component scanning is a built-in concept. You no need to do anything for that because already here the annotation is available in the start class. So here we have boot application annotation. That annotation is equal to below 3 annotations. One of the annotation is a component scan. Component scanning will start from base package. The base package nothing but the package which contains the start class is called as base package. After base package scanning completed, it will scan sub packages of the base package. The base package name should the base sub packages. The package names which are starting with the base package name are called as sub packages. For example, if your package name is in.AhokIT, we are considering this as a base package. Now in.AhokIT.dao, in.AhokIT.service, in.AhokIT.config, in.AhokIT.config, in.AhokIT.rest, in.AhokIT.util. Can I say all these packages are sub packages? Can I say all these packages are sub packages? You see, base package name is in.AhokIT. DAO package is starting with in.AhokIT only. Service package also starting with in.AhokIT. Config package also starting with the same. REST package also starting with the same. Util package also starting with the same. So now all these packages will be scanned by default. All these packages will be scanned by default. That is the default behavior. For example, I am going to create one package com.walmart.security. I'm creating a package com.walmart.security. Is it a sub package or it is not a sub package? IOC will scan this Walmart package or IOC will not scan the Walmart package. Suppose if I create a class inside this package, that class will be scanned as part of the component scanning, or that package will not be scanned as part of the component scanning. Check it. Check it. Let us create one class inside that package com dot different package name I am using com.walmart.security. com.walmart.security. I'm creating one class with a name called password utils. In order to encrypt the password or decrypt the passwords, I'm going to take one class called password utils. System.out.println, system.out.println. Just I am writing one message in the constructor to understand object is created or not. Password utils constructor. password utils constructor. It is a normal Java class. Let me represent this class also as a Spring Bean by using component. By using component, I'm representing this class also as a Spring Bean. Now run this project, run as boot application. Can you see for password class, object is created or object is not created? Object is not created. Why object is not created? Why object is not created? Package name is matching, package name is not matching, package name is not matching. It is a different package. It is not part of our base package. That is the problem. Our base package is in.AhokIT. It is scanning. This package contains a start class. So this is called as a base package. It is scanned. Once the base package is scanning completed, it is going to scan the sub packages. What is the meaning of sub package? The package names which are starting with the base package name are called as sub packages. In.ashoka.dao, package name can be anything, but it should start with in.ashokit. Then only it will come under sub package. Then only that package will be scanned to identify the Spring Beans. Then only objects will be created. But here I created a password utils class by using com.walmart.security package. This is not part of our sub package. This is not sub package. This is not sub package. So scanning will not happen. Scanning will not happen. Guys, in the previous batches also, when we have started Java real-time project, people came to our Java real-time project. They have done the Spring Boot courses outside. They are coming and saying that, sir, my application is started, but my class objects are not creating. Dependency injection is not happening. Those people will not follow the package naming conventions properly. If they don't write the package naming conventions properly, Spring Boot will not consider that class. Spring Boot will not scan that package. Object will not be created. Dependency injection will not happen. Application will give the error. So many people came with this problem. Sir, I have created the project. My class object is not created. IOC not loading my class. IOC not performing the dependency injection for my class. When I see their base package will be something, their sub packages will be something. If you don't follow this package naming convention, component scanning will not happen. If the component scanning is not happens, then your class object will not be created by the IOC container. If the object is not created by the IOC container, then dependency injection will not happen. There is a lot of internals involved here when you are creating the packages in the boot application. So can you use whatever you want, or you need to follow some rules and guidelines while working with Spring Boot? Can you use any package name? Can you use anything as a package name? Right, tell me, what are the rules we need to follow while working with classes and packages in the Spring Boot? First of all, do we have any XML to represent our class as a Spring Bean? Do we have any XML to represent our classes as a Spring Beans? No. How we are representing our classes as a Spring Beans? How our classes are representing as Spring Beans? There are some annotations available. We will understand what are those annotations also. First, we want to discuss about component scanning. Am I doing any setting to perform the component scanning, or it is inbuilt functionality? Am I doing any setting for the component scanning, or it is inbuilt functionality? It is inbuilt functionality. You no need to do anything. So that is the default behavior, sir. That is the default behavior. Whenever you create a boot application, start class will be available by default. The package which contains the start class is called as a base package. The Spring Boot application, once it is started, In the start class, there is the annotation. That annotation contains a component scan. It is scanning the base package first. In the base package, car available, car is a Spring Bean, create the object. Motor is available, Spring Bean, create the object. Once this base package is completed, then go to DAO package. Why? Because DAO is a part of base package only, naming convention. DAO is comes under sub package. DAO comes under sub package. Yes, this also scanned object created. After DAO, service is there. Service package is also part of the base package. Object is created for the service. Then what about the password utils? Password utils class is having a different package, com.walmart. It is not part of the base package. That's why all these packages are scanned, but com.walmart package not scanned. Com.walmart package not scanned. Are you clear why the object is not created for this class, even though it is having component? People will ask this also. Sir, I used component annotation now. Why object is not creating? You used component annotation. The problem, package name. Your class is not following the proper package naming convention. That's why this class is not participate. This package is not participated in the component scanning. That's why object not created for your class. Got my point, guys? Next one. Is there any way that I can represent two base packages? I want to consider in.AhokIT as one base package, and I want to consider com.walmart also as a base package. Can we configure two base packages so that both packages will be scanned? Yes, we can do that. That is customization. Right? How can we configure more than one base package? If you are not following the proper naming convention, then you need to write the component scan. You need to override the default behavior. Default behavior is available. I am going to override the default behavior. For example, if I give the component scan with com.walmart, only I am giving com.walmart. Now, how many class objects will be created? I am using base package name as com.walmart. Now observe, run as boot application. What happened if I give the base package name as com.walmart? I am overriding the default behavior. It is considering only this package. What about in.AhokIT? Is it considering the in.AhokIT as a base package, or it is not considering that? It is not considering. All my class objects are not created because these packages are not participated in the component scanning. We are overriding the default behavior. If I don't write this annotation, then in.AhokIT is the base package, that is by default. I am writing the component scan annotation. I am specifying the base package as com.walmart. Then only it is considering the Walmart package. Suppose if I want to consider two base packages, I want to consider in.AhokIT as well as com.walmart. In.AhokIT and com.walmart. Now right click, run as boot application. Now see the console. Now can you see car class object, motor class object, DAO class object, service class object, and password utils object also created. This time all the packages are scanning which are available in the project. Is it scanning all the packages which are available in the project? Why it is scanning all the packages now? Are we using default component scan behavior, or we are customizing the component scan behavior? We are customizing the component scan behavior. I'm specifying in.AhokIT as one base package, com.walmart as another base package. Explicitly, we are telling to scan these both packages. When I give in.AhokIT, it will scan all the packages which are starting with in.AhokIT. When I give com.walmart, it will scan all the packages which are starting with the com.walmart base package. So if there is any package, for example, I'm going to create one more package, a new class inside com.walmart.dao. com.walmart.dao, I'm going to create a class with a name called report to DAO. It is available inside Walmart DAO. Let me write a constructor to understand the object creation. When whether the object is created or not, we can understand by looking at this message. Now, DAOs will be represented as a Spring Beans by using repository annotation. By using repository annotation, right? Run as boot application. Run as. Can you see for report DAO also object created? What is the package name? com.walmart.dao. Because com.walmart is a base package. So any package which is starting with the com.walmart will be scanned now. So there are two base packages. We can specify more than one base package also. We can specify more than one base package also in our boot start class, like this. Guys, now tell me, creating a packages without naming convention and configuring the multiple base packages is recommended. Creating the packages with naming convention is recommended. Which approach is recommended? Create whatever the packages you want without following any naming convention. Configure them as a base packages is recommended. Following the naming convention is recommended. Following the naming conventions. Follow the proper naming conventions. So whenever you are creating a package name, your company domain name com.walmart or com.ibm, com.facebook, then use your project name. Okay, recommended package naming conventions. Recommended to follow. Note. It is highly recommended. It is highly recommended to follow proper package naming conventions. Package naming conventions. For example, company domain name, then project name, module name, layer name. That is how we need to write the packages. Company domain name, for example, if you are working for Facebook project, com.facebook, company name itself is a Facebook, domain name is also Facebook. Let me talk about TCS, com.tcs. You are working for passport project, com.tcs.passport. You keep it as a base package. You keep it as a base package name. Then com.tcs.passport.user.dao, something like this. com.tcs.passport.user is the module name, user.service. So it is recommended to create the package names like this. So this is my base package. Inside this base package, I'm creating DAO, service, util, whatever you want, you can create it. It is highly recommended to follow proper package naming conventions so that you no need to write the component scan manually. You no need to write the component scan manually. You understood what is a component scanning now? You understood what is component scanning now? Clear or crystal clear? I will come to what is stereotype annotation. I will explain what is stereotype annotations. What are the differences between component service repository? So people may have a doubt. Ashok, we are using three different annotations to create the object. Here we are using component. Here we are using repository. Here we are using @service. What is the difference between those three annotations? You may have that doubt generally. I will come to that point also. Okay. When I'm explaining about annotations, I will tell you what are the differences between component, service, repository. Okay. First, let's try to understand what is a component scanning. You got my point. Anybody not able to understand what is the component scanning? Anybody not able to understand what is component scanning and how it is working in the Spring Boot? What is the package naming convention? How to create the packages? Crystal clear? So can you tell to your juniors how to create the packages in the project? Good. Fine. Next one. Guys, let us see here. I'm taking a car class. I'm taking a motor class. I'm representing them as a Spring Bean by using component, by using service, by using repository. Who is creating object for those classes? Who is creating object for those classes? For component or for service or for DAO? Who is creating object for those classes? IOC container creating object for those classes. Who is starting that IOC container? Who is creating the object? Who is starting that IOC? Whenever we start our boot application, this run method is getting executed. Run method is starting IOC container. IOC container is doing this component scanning, and it is going to identify the bean class objects, and it is going to create the objects. It is going to identify the bean classes, and it is going to create the objects for those bean classes. So here object creation is taken care by Spring Boot IOC container. I am just representing my class as a component. That's it. For this class, object is created by IOC container. For this class, object is created by IOC container. But I have a special requirement. I have a special requirement. I want to develop one class. For that class, I don't want IOC to create the object. I want to create the object for the class. IOC should consider my class object as a Spring Bean. Here, observe carefully, guys, a little tricky concept. Here I have a car class. For the car class, we have given component. It is very simple, straightforward. Component is a stereotype annotation. It is used to represent the car class as a Spring Bean. IOC container scanned this package, which is base package. It identified the car class as a Spring Bean. IOC container created the object for the car class. Object creation taken care by IOC. But I have a special requirement. I want to develop one class. I don't want IOC to create the object. I want to create the object. I want to create the object for the class. I want IOC to consider my object as a Spring Bean object. Let us take, for example, here I want to perform some security operation. I want to perform some security operation, or else I want to generate some configuration for the REST APIs, or I want to do Kafka configurations or REST configurations or any other thing. I want to do some customized configurations for my project. Now here I am going to create one object. I'm going to create one object. Let me take one class, new class, or else instead of that, let me go to start class only. Inside the start class only, I will create the object. First, let me take that class, new class. I'm taking this class as security package. Here I'm writing app security. I'm writing app security. For this class also, I'm writing a zero param constructor. I'm writing zero param constructor, app security constructor. App security constructor. Now run this. Object will be created for the app security object will not be created for the app security. Object is creating or object is not creating? Object is not creating for the app security. Why the object is not creating for app security? Is it following the package naming convention? Is it following the package naming convention or it is not following the package naming convention? Package naming convention it is following. But why it is not creating the object for this class? Is there any problem? This class is not a Spring Bean. This class is not a Spring Bean. It is a normal Java class. So object is not created for the normal Java class. It is not a Spring Bean. If I represent by using component, then what will happen? Then what will happen? Guys, come on. Is it a Spring Bean? Yes. If it is a Spring Bean, who is creating the object for this class? Who is creating object for this class? For app security, constructor executed, object created by IOC. Okay, now I have a question. In my project, I want to provide the security for few functionalities, but not for all the functionalities. Can IOC understand for which functionalities it has to provide the security, or a programmer will understand for which functionalities we need to provide the security? Do we need to provide the security for all the functionalities in the project or for few functionalities in the project? For few functionalities in the project. IOC don't know for which functionalities we need security, for which functionalities we don't know security. I don't want IOC to create the object because IOC don't know how to manage this. IOC will just create the object, but only creating object is not sufficient here. I want to customize this object creation. I want to customize this object creation. What I will do is I will go to start class. Inside the start class, I will write a method public app security. That is my custom class. App security create instance. Create instance. Here I am writing some logic app security AS is equal to new app security. In future, I will write logic to secure. Finally, I will return this object. So now, am I representing this class as a Spring Bean by using component? No, I'm not representing this class as a Spring Bean by using component. It is normal Java class only. But what I am doing, I am writing a method to create the object. Not only object creation, I am doing custom logic to secure our functionalities. I am going to write in future. When we talk about security, I will tell you how to secure these applications. Custom logic to secure our functionality. IOC don't know what is this custom logic. That's why I don't want IOC to create the object for this class. That's why I'm not giving the annotation. This class I'm writing as a normal Java class, but I'm writing a method in the start class. Create instance for this method. Now tell me, this method will be executed or this method will not be executed? This method will be executed or this method will not be executed? Let's check it. Run as boot app. If this method is executed, app security object should be created. Programmer is creating the object. If the security object is created, constructor should be executed. Can you see? App security class object is created or app security class object is not created? It is not created. It is not created. Now I want to tell the IOC, hey IOC, I am writing one method to create one class object. You call this method. You don't need to create the object for app security. I'm not writing any annotation. Suppose if I go for user service, I'm writing @service. That means I'm telling to IOC to create the object. But here, when it comes to the app security, I am not writing any annotation. I'm just writing this as a normal Java class. Based on my requirement, I am writing one method. Inside that method, I am writing my logic to create the object to customize that process. Now I want to inform to IOC container, hey IOC, you call my method. You call this method. This method will give you object. You no need to create the object. You just call this method. This method will give you an object. I am writing some logic to create the object. I am writing some logic to customize the object. You just call this method. It will give the object. You consider that object as a Spring Bean. Then we will go for @bean annotation. Are you guys able to understand what is the purpose of @bean? When you want to customize a particular class object creation in the project, then you write the method to create that object and customize that object, give @bean annotation. Now see the behavior, run as boot application. Now can you see security object constructor executed because this method got called. Who is calling this method? Programmer is calling this method, or IOC calling this method? Programmer is calling this method, or IOC calling this method? Not programmer. Where the programmer is calling this method? Some people are still giving wrong answer, man. Am I calling this method anywhere? Am I calling this method anywhere? Who is calling this method? IOC container. Why this IOC container calling this method? I have given @bean annotation. Now tell me when to go for component, when to go for @bean, when to go for component, and when to go for @bean. Tell me when to go for component and when to go for @bean. If you want IOC container to create the object for your class, then you will go for component. Then IOC container will create the object. I don't want IOC container to create the object for my class. I will write the logic to create the object for my class. I want IOC to call my method to get the object. That's it. I want IOC to call my method to get the object. Then we will go for @bean. Component annotation is a class level annotation. @bean is a method level annotation. If you want to customize particular object creation, then you will write a method with that logic. For that method, you will write @bean. So when you write a class with @bean, then IOC container will create the object for that class. IOC container will call the method, will represent that object as a Spring Bean. Programmer is creating the object. Programmer is giving the object to the IOC. IOC will consider app security as a Spring Bean. This is my custom object creation, custom logic I'm writing to create the object. For report DAO, IOC will create the object. For user DAO, IOC will create the object. For motor, IOC will create the object. For car also, IOC will create the object. But for app security, programmer is creating the object. When the programmer is creating the object by using a method, how IOC will understand this is a Spring Bean? For that reason only we have given @bean. When I give @bean, IOC container will call this method. When IOC will call this method, it will get the object as a output return type. My method is returning app security. This object will be represented as a Spring Bean. Now let us see tomorrow when we go for our applications development. Tomorrow when we go for our applications development, we are going to develop several applications. Now Swagger application. If you go to Swagger, I'm going to create one class for Swagger configuration. I'm going to create one class called Swagger configuration. Let us see this Swagger configuration. Now can you see what is this here? Can you see what is this here? @bean. I'm writing a method. For that method I'm writing @bean. What is this method is returning? Docket object. I don't want IOC to create the object for the docket. I am creating the docket object. I am customizing like this. I am telling to this docket object, in this package my REST controllers are available. You generate the documentation for this particular package classes only, not for entire project. Don't generate the documentation for entire project. Generate the documentation only for the REST controllers available in this package. I am creating the docket object. I am customizing this object. I want IOC to consider this docket as a Spring Bean. I'm writing a method. For that method, I am using @bean. You understand? Similarly, not only Swagger, if you go for not only Swagger, if you go for some other functionalities will be available. Other functionalities will be available. DB config. I want to create I want to create multiple database connections by using Spring Boot config. Now, user DB config. User DB config. Can you see what is this? I am creating data source object on my own. I'm customizing the data source object. So when I'm creating the data source on my own, I want IOC to call my method. For that, I'm writing @bean. I'm creating this entity manager factory on my own. For that, I'm using @bean. I am creating my own transaction manager. For that, I'm using @bean. So @bean is a method level annotation. When you want to customize a particular object creation, then we will use @bean annotation. Are you guys clear with my point? Now, what is the difference between component and bean annotations? What is the difference between component and bean annotations? When you give the component, IOC will create the object. That is a class level annotation. What is bean? Bean is a method level annotation. When we will use bean annotation, can you guys tell me? When we will go for bean annotation? Are you guys getting my point? When you will go for bean annotation? When you want to customize a particular object creation, then you will write the logic, then you will give @bean. @bean is a method level annotation. Samjha? Are you guys getting clarity? When you use component at the class level, IOC will create the object. When you don't want IOC to create the object for a particular class, then don't write the annotation at the class level. Then you write the method. In that method, you write the logic to create the object. Then you write @bean. Then IOC will call this method. Whatever the object our method is giving, IOC will consider that object as a Spring Bean. Now, sir, where to write the bean methods? Is it mandatory to write only in the start class? Do we need to write the bean methods? The method which is having @bean, where I need to write this method? Is it mandate? Where I am writing currently? Where is this method available? Where is this method available currently? In which class this method is available? Inside the start class that method is available. Okay. Not only in the start class, you can keep that in any Spring Bean. Now, for example, guys, it is not recommended, but I'm keeping here. In the report DAO, I am writing a method with @bean. Okay, let's check it. Right click, run as boot app. Boot app. Is that method called? Is the object created? Is the object created? Yes. That means in any Spring Bean, you can keep this method. Not only here, go to car class, keep in the car class. Can I keep it here? Can I keep it here? Motor class, I kept a motor. I created a motor class as a Spring Bean. In the motor class, I kept this method. Let's run this application. Will that method called? Will that method called? Is that method getting called? App security object created. But is it recommended to keep like this? It is not recommended. Can I keep inside the app security itself? Can I keep in the app security itself? Yes or no? Now, this method will be called or this method will not be called. Let's check it. Run as boot application. Is it called or it is not called? Is it called or it is not called? It is not called. Why it is not called? First of all, your app security is not a Spring Bean. Is it a Spring Bean? No. Inside that method, I'm writing @bean. So is it calling that method or it is not calling that method? It is not calling. What I am doing in this method, I'm customizing the object creation. I want IOC to call this, but IOC is not calling. When I kept this method in the motor class, it called. When I kept this class in the start class, it called. When I kept this class in the report DAO, it called. But when I kept this method within the same class, it is not calling. Can you guess what is the reason? Can you guess what is the reason? That method should be available in Spring Bean class. That method should be available in the Spring Bean class. So is it a Spring Bean class? No. Is it a Spring Bean class? No. So if I give you a component, what will happen? If I give you a component, what will happen? IOC container is going to create the object. Do you want IOC container to create the object, or we want to execute this logic to create the object? If you give component, IOC will create the object. Do we want IOC to create the object, or we want to execute our logic to create the object? Then we are going to use one annotation called configuration annotation. I want to represent it to IOC. I want to inform to IOC, hey bhaiya, this is my configuration class. In this class, I am customizing my object creation. So you call this method. This method will give you object. You consider that method as a Spring Bean. So whenever you are doing some customizations related to configurations, then better to keep them inside a configuration class so that people can easily understand, okay, it is a configuration class. Bean methods will be available here. Now check it. Right click, run as boot app. Now can you see this object is created? This class is considered. I'm using @configuration. Now you see for my Swagger class also, for this class also, am I using @configuration? When there is @bean, we are going to represent that class as a configuration class. When I'm writing a Swagger configuration with the method @bean, I'm writing @configuration. So we need to inform to IOC in this class, bean methods will be available. Configurations. When you want to customize a particular object creation, then it is recommended to create a class as a configuration class and create the objects by writing the methods with @bean. Configuration class is the replacement for the XML. Earlier, we used to configure bean definitions in the XML, but today we are not using XML for the configuration. We are using a Java class as a configuration class. We are using Java configuration. How to represent our Java class as a configuration class? How to use our Java class as a configuration class? By using @configuration. Either you can represent the configuration, here I can write @component, then IOC will create the object. If you don't want IOC to create the object, then you write your own method by using @bean annotation. You keep that method inside the configuration class, then IOC will treat this as a configuration. Instead of taking the XML configuration, we are taking the Java configuration. We are representing our class as a configuration class by using @configuration annotation. Understood? Understood my point? Okay, what is @bean? What is @bean annotation? When we want to customize particular object creation, then we will write that using @bean. @bean is a method level annotation. @bean is a method level annotation. When we want to customize any object creation, then we will use bean annotation for that. Okay, like this. Bean is a method level annotation. When we want to customize any object creation, then we will use @bean annotation for that. Configuration. app security. I'm writing a constructor. I'm writing @bin. So in this class, for the same class, I'm creating the object. But generally, we can write a different class, configuration class. People will write it as a app config. App config. Okay, in the app config class, I'm creating the object for app security. Like this, we can manage. App config class I'm taking. In the app config class, I'm writing the object creation for app security. So you see, Swagger config I have taken. Inside the Swagger config class, for which class I'm creating the object? For a docket object, I'm creating the object. Inside the DB config is a configuration. For which class I'm creating object? Data source, entity manager factory, transaction manager. For these classes, I'm creating the objects by using DB config. So here, using app config, I'm creating the object for app security. App security object I want to customize. For that, I'm writing @bin. And to represent the @bin methods, I'm writing @configuration class. So here, if you go to start class is also having one annotation called boot configuration. This boot configuration and this @configuration both are same. Boot configuration and @configuration both annotations are same. If you go to boot configuration internally using @configuration only. So that is the reason when you write @bin method inside the start class, it is getting executed. Why this bin method is getting executed from the start class? Start class itself is acting as a configuration class. You understand why I have explained this concept now? We are understanding this annotation. We understood component scan. Now we understood what is this configuration. So when you want to customize any particular object creation, that object creation methods you can write inside the start class. Start class, if you write the method in the start class, it is executing. Why it is getting executed from the start class also? Start class itself is a configuration class. How to represent this as a configuration? You no need to do. Already there is an annotation, boot configuration. This start class will be considered as a configuration class. If any bin methods are available, those bin methods will be executed from here. These bin methods will be executed from here. Now you understood what is boot application. Boot application means combination of 3 annotations. What are those 3 annotations? Boot configuration, auto configuration, component scan. Now you understood what is boot configuration. This class will be represented as a configuration class. Any customized bin methods, if you want, you can write in the start class. They will be called by IOC. And the second one is auto configuration. We already know what is auto configuration. Based on the dependencies available in the pom.xml, this is going to identify what configuration required for the project. It will provide that configuration. And the third one is component scanning. Component scanning is the process of identifying the Spring Beans available in the project. By using base package naming convention, it is going to scan the packages, will identify the Spring Bean classes. Now you got the clarity. What is this start class? What is this run method? What is this annotation? What is the bean? What is the configuration? Are you guys getting the clarity on start class of the Spring Boot? Lot of internals are available. So many questions they will ask in the interview from this start class only. So many questions they are going to ask from start class. What is component scanning? What is auto configuration? What is run method? When to go for component annotation? When to go for bean annotation? When to go for bean annotation? How the packages will be scanned? What is base package name? Can I configure multiple base package names? Can I customize the component scanning? All questions they will ask from this start class. All those questions are belongs to start class only. I hope now you got the clarity. What is this run method? And what is this annotation? What is component scanning? What is configuration? What is auto configuration? Configuration is different, auto configuration is different. Configuration is different, auto configuration is different. What is the meaning of configuration? Customizing the objects. What is auto configuration? Auto configuration means it will identify the configuration required for the project. Spring Boot will identify the configuration required for the project, and the Spring Boot will provide the configuration for our project. Configuration means that programmer is doing manually. Auto configuration means Spring Boot will provide. Samjha? The difference between boot configuration, enable auto configuration. Boot configuration means we can write our bean methods to customize the object creations. Auto configuration means it will provide the configuration which is required for the project, like creating a data source connections, starting the embedded servers, component scanning, creating the objects. What are the configurations required for the project will be taken care by Spring Boot. Fine. Now guys, tell me, what is Spring Boot? What is the definition of the Spring Boot? What is the definition of the Spring Boot? Come on. What is the definition of the Spring Boot? What is the definition of the Spring Boot? Spring Boot is one approach to develop Spring based applications with less configurations. Spring Boot is one approach to develop the Spring applications with less configurations. Okay, fine.